Okay, let's start this. Maybe just double check that I have everything correctly set up, and yeah, looks like it. So, just trying out the chat. So this should go to chat. So I sent a message to the chat, and there it is. So yeah, basically what I'm doing is I'm preparing for a session that I'm doing tomorrow. That has to do with helping out a couple of students who are learning Unreal Engine, basically answering them questions and helping them kind of with all sorts of Unreal related questions. The theme of the project is building something that's related to Space Invaders. So tonight I'm going to do a bit of a practice stream, just showing off how I would tackle this, and and just doing some development myself. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of uhs and ums in this because I don't have it kind of fully in my head how I'm going to pull this off. But I wanted to run through this, and I was hoping that yeah, someone would enjoy it. So first thing is that I thought I had already closed my I thought I'd saved my project from last time, but I clearly didn't, so I have to start over from next time, but maybe that's okay. The thing that I want to start out with, and that's one of the reasons why I'm live streaming, is because I'm gonna switch over to my Photoshop view here, and I wanted to try to see if I can make a little bit of an infographic of what I'm trying to pull off before I do it, because I'm a very a pretty strong kind of visual thinker. I like to visualize things before I do them. So I've always been super interested in trying to kind of integrate that in when I'm working with people. So so this is me trying that out. So Space Invaders, I will admit, is not a game that I played a lot myself, but I know a lot about it. Maybe a good thing would be just to start off with, let's see, making sure that there's no echo. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this should be fine. So let's see if we just go to YouTube and search for Space Invaders. Just to see how the original one looks like. So we could do something like this. And now I have to remember switching back to my correct screen. Okay, so I'm not going to do, for my demo, I'm not going to do any menus or anything like that because it's a pretty short, kind of short demo. But okay, here we go. So right off the bat, I can see that I need to build a little bit more than I thought I would in the beginning. So we can see that we have a player here. We have these kind of barriers, and then we have the enemies. So these are kind of the, and then we have these kind of game related things, like you have a high score and your score and things like that. And you have live, like what I want to do with the students that I'm going to be teaching is that I'm going to make the minimum viable product to begin with. So it's just going to be the player, the controls for the player, and then the enemies. So it's either going to be a enemy or just a single enemy to start with, and then what I want to do once everyone has gotten the hang of that, I want to go a little bit further and maybe introduce more enemies. And we can see that there's some more interesting things happening here, and the player playing it kind of missed it. Okay, so so I have a pretty good idea of this. So I'm just gonna I think this picture here encapsulates pretty much every single element that I want to include. So I'm just going to screen grab that, and I'm going to go over to my my drawing software, Photoshop, and I'm just going to put it up here as a reference. So we make another layer here. So I'm trying to do these kind of infographics and things like that with Photoshop and doing artboards, which I think is kind of cool. Okay, so let's see. So this here, I'm gonna make this a little smaller. So we have the let's make this readable. We have a player here. We have obstacles here. And we have an enemy. So it's three things. So player obstacle, and I'm gonna do enemy. Okay, so these, I guess, are the three things that I'm going to be building, and then we have a projectile here. So let's go here. We have a projectile. So these are the elements that I'm going to be looking at, and and we have and the enemies actually have different types. The enemies have different types and things like that, and we know that some of the enemies are doing shoot projectiles as well. So I think this is a good place to start. So let's go into Unreal. Let's see how we switch over to that. Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I actually have the old version of my game here, so maybe we just build on top of that. Let's just review how that worked. So I need to align it correctly. Here we go. So I had a version before. You could go from left to right. We would hook it up to the controls. You could shoot, and we had kind of the basic structure of the classes. So if we just take a look at our go back over here. If we take a look at what we have so we have our enemy. We have but the enemy doesn't move. We have the player. The player can move left and right. And we have the projectile. So what we don't have is the obstacles. So let's try to make the obstacle now. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a new blueprint class here, and I'm going to call it BP obstacle. And I'm pretty sure this is not how you spell obstacle, but I'm just going to have to live with that. So since I'm just focusing on doing a minimum viable product, I'm going to just use super simple graphics. So I'm just going to do a cube like so, and we can have it white. Okay, so I have to press stop. So we make a cube. Let's take a look at the obstacle here. Make the cube, and if we drag our cube into the level here, let's take a look at where our enemies are placed in the world. So we are placing them on 0 on the x-axis. So what happens if we do that? Then our obstacle goes here, and then our enemies are at 30 on the y-axis. And so let's put it in the center to begin with. This is the light, so if we move it a little bit to the side, yeah. So here we can see that we have the player start here, and I think this is actually a pretty good opportunity to kind of formalize our level a little bit. So now you can see when I press play, the obstacle is actually below the player. So so that's not something that we want. So let's go ahead and go back into our drawing software. I don't know why I'm saying drawing software, it's Photoshop. So go here and here. I want to make a new artboard. I really think the idea of artboard is really cool, but I'm not great at making them myself. So okay, so I made a new artboard here, and I am going to do a little bit of a graphic. And again, I'm just trying to figure this out. So this may be completely wrong. So one of the things that I'm doing in this game is that I'm picking the numbers and the locations of my objects pretty it's not just dragging and dropping them somewhere. So I know that my player, for example, my player start here is set at 0, 0, 0. And I know, for example, the velocity of my projectile, and I know that the first row of enemies here is at positive 500 or something like that. So I'm gonna get rid of these duplicated enemies here, and I'm just gonna have one enemy, because we can see that it's pretty easy to use a single enemy. we can just duplicate the enemies, but in making sure that we yeah, I want this to be kind of correctly aligned. So and I'm gonna say that my enemy is at 600. So when I press play, like it feels like it's kind of in the middle, and that's what I want. Space, I kill the enemy. So and I am obviously not switching correctly between my screens. So so this is something that I'm gonna have to get used to when I forget switching and this is the thing that I really want to practice. I think switching between these is really no, not this one. I think this is really cool, but it requires a little bit of practice. So going into this, what I mentioned is that I have my making sure I'm on the right screen. So let's say that this is our level here, and we'll say that. So this is the ground. So our player. We are placing our player at the coordinates 0, 0, 0. So I'm gonna say, let's go and pick another color. So the player, it's gonna be here, is at 0, 0, 0. And that means that these are just the 3D coordinates. And if we take a look at, see, correctly switching, if we take a look at this here, the player starts, this is where the player is going to appear. You can see that the location that it's spawning is 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to say that the next kind of layer in this is going to be my, and I'm going to call this, and switching, see, I'm gonna get this, player. So the next layer in this is going to be the obstacles. So we can say that we could just go ahead and draw a little line here, and I'm going to take this orange color and I'm going to put it here. So yeah, maybe this is a little bit too high, but if I just draw something in here that I feel like is good, I think if we take a look at this, had 4 obstacles. So I'm gonna say, and I'm not gonna worry, like I could be worrying about things like spacing on the y-axis, which is, interestingly enough, in our case, this is the y-axis, and this here is the z-axis, and then directly in front of us is going to be the x-axis, and this is one of the things that confused me quite a bit when I started out myself. So this is going to be the player. This is going to be the and we're deciding where we want to put the actual obstacles. So I'm just going to go and draw something in here. I'm going to say I want an obstacle here. I want an obstacle here, and here. And this is why I'm terrible at drawing. That doesn't matter. Okay, so we have our obstacles kind of layer here. And I'm just gonna get rid of this because this doesn't make any sense anymore. So so this is not a tutorial. This is me figuring out how I'm going to pull this off when I go teaching the Unreal class tomorrow. So now we have our obstacles layer. So this here is an obstacle, and I'm gonna say that I want my obstacles to appear on the z-axis. I'm just gonna take a look at how it would look in the game. So remembering to switch views. See, I will get this. So this is our obstacle here. So I'm just gonna try it out here at 200. So this is gonna be right in the middle, 200. And this is sorry, this is way too close to the player, and the enemy is actually way too. See, move our enemy up a little bit, and let's move the obstacle up here. I feel like this is a little bit better. So I'm just trying to find a good number, and the obstacle could actually be smaller as well. So let's scale our obstacle. So I'm going to pick the actor here, and the cube that we're using, let's just make it half the size of what it was. Okay, so that's a little bit, that's way too small. So put to 75. Here we go, 75. Right. Here we go. Actually, I should probably save my sorry. So save my level here. Yeah, jumping into this. So I'm trying to figure out where I want to place my obstacle. So when I press play, my obstacle is here, and I think this is probably a fine location for it. So I can shoot, and it's going to kill my obstacle and my enemy without prejudice. So let's see if. Yeah, so let's say 275. I really like having these kind of nice numbers here. So at 275, we have an obstacle. So let's switch back over to our kind of design document here. And we're going to say this is going to be 275 on the z-axis. And that's going to be a positive 275. And then the next thing that we want to do, and our infographic is obviously nowhere close, not in the correct scale, but that doesn't matter. We're just trying to figure out kind of what works. So going in here, I am adding a couple of more. Yeah, the hardest thing about this is picking colors, actually. So, and now we do our enemies. And we take a look at our demo here, or the screenshot that we took earlier. So the enemies are actually way closer than I thought. So let's say that the enemies here, yeah, see, I picked the wrong color. It's always like that. So it can't be blue, can't be green. I have run out of colors. I'm gonna do red. So we're at 275 here, and if I play the game like so, I feel like this area here where I have my my enemy is probably where the almost the highest number of enemies is going to be. So if my enemies are going to be this size, then yeah, let's just make the enemy a little bit smaller. No, let's not do that. Do that just yet. Let's see. Let's think. Okay, so we'll just we'll do a little bit of brainstorming. I'm just gonna duplicate my enemies. So this here would give me 4 rows of enemies. And did I mess it up? Nope. And then the scene is gonna look like this. And I think for our game this is fine. We do 4 rows of enemies because eventually we're gonna want them to go down and things like that. But yeah, let's see. This means that the bottom one here is at 650, and then I'm just going to say 650. Okay, let's go back over to Photoshop, and again, this is not the. So this is the enemy layer, and it's going to start at plus 650 on the z-axis. And then it's going to end here. So here, what I want to have, four of these that are available. So we start with 650. We're going to have to figure out how big each one of them is. So that means we are doing a little bit of fun math, which is going to be if we give ourselves that that an enemy is, let's see, I am almost positive that an enemy is 100 units. So we're gonna do it based on the collision box here. So let's take a look. So we have the cube here, and the box itself is scaled up a little bit. And our cube is actually, yeah, see, this is what happens. So let's go over this. Let's go over here. So the cube itself is actually not. This is not correctly set up, or not the way that I would want to do it. So I'm going to drag my box here into the my cube here into the collision volume, and this is the volume that we use for detecting the actual collisions themselves. So I'm going to just reset all of the sizes here to make things a little bit easier to work with. So now we have a box that's inside of our cube, and the cube itself, why is the cube not the same size as the box? Okay, so I'm just gonna make this again. So now I have a cube here, and we're gonna I have the collision box. So now we have no graphics. Let's add a box, a cube, not a box. Here we go. Maybe the box itself is just bigger. Yeah, that's probably what it is. The box extent here is 32 by 32 by 32. We are going to want it to be 100, maybe. This is interesting. So I feel like I want the box extent to be 100. So I feel like this should be 100 by 100 by 100 units. And this is actually pretty easy to test. So we can see, for example, we can do this with snapping. So if we snap this on 10, for example, no, so this is scaling here. So if we snap on 100, so now we have our grid actually set up. So each grid point here is 100 units. That means that our box is now 200. So it's going to be 100, 100, and we want to do 50, 50, 50. Yep. So now our box, here we go. So now our box is correctly set up to be 100 units. And the problem earlier was that the default box had some had 32 by 32 by 32, which are fine numbers, to be honest. But what we're doing, we want to use these whole numbers. So now we have a cube here, and this is our enemy, and we have a box collision around it. And if you watched what we did earlier or last time, we also made sure that our box cube didn't have any collision, so we use our box here. So now if we go back, and I remembered switching, so our enemy here is now the size of our enemy is 100 units by 100 units, which means that if we want 4 of them, the top extent, if we want 4 of them with no space between them, then that's going to be 4 times, so it's going to be 4 times 100, because that's going to be the height of them. So it's going to be 750. Let's do something like this: 750, 850, and 950. So let's just make sure that our math is correct. And there's a good chance that our math is not correct, because I'm terrible at math. But if we started here, you can see that it's at 650. I'm going to make another one. I'm going to move it up to 750. Yeah, so this is really awkward, because I am terrible at math. So there is a space between it. 750, and then we do 850. And we do 850, and then we do 950. And this is actually the risk of doing this live, because you all get to see how when I mess up, and I need to kind of backtrack to figure it out. And if anyone wants to shout out something that that's obvious in the chat, I would be happy to. Let's see, how does the chat actually work? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure that our calculation is a little bit wrong, because if we take a look at our cube here, we set it to 50 by 50 by 50, which I guess means that if we just put it into the simplest thing to do is just to go into the front view, for example. And if you middle mouse button, you can see that our the size of our, let's fix the size here, let's put it down to just 10. And if we go here, yeah, okay, so this is even, oh, no, okay, I get it. Right, so there's a scaling on the actor here, something from before. So we wanted the actor to be at 1, and then the actor at 1, and then the actor at 1. So this is the curse of maybe the curse of forgetting to switch the views, but it's also the curse of being really bad at math, because I'll start questioning myself, even though there's probably just a super simple solution. But here you can see that now that I fixed I forgot to switch the view a little bit. But the problem was that all of these were set to 0.65 or something like that, which meant that there was this space. So even though our actor, our enemy actor here, had the correct size, because once we place it in the world, we actually get problems. So fix that, put it all to 1, and now we have our stack of enemies. And going back here, we're taking the 650, which is our starting location, and we are moving them up by 100 units. So one thing that we could pretty easily do is we could pretty easily just add a padding to this if we wanted to. But I think a cool thing that we could do as well is that we just say that each enemy has the space of 100 by 100, so something like that, but we scale it down a little bit. So let's add a scene component here, and let's drop our cube into the scene component, and let's just say 0.75. So what we're doing now is, even though our calculations are being done by the by 1 in our design document here, and there is a 100 unit difference between the actors themselves. The actors themselves are only taking up 75% of the only taking up 75% of the actual space. And I'm actually thinking I can probably just do this. So if I just undo everything I'm doing, there's no need to add the scene component. I can probably just scale the actual default scene component. So this is one thing to watch. Forgetting to switch views again. So I just removed our scene component, and so when I removed, you can see here, when I had the scene component here, and the scene component got scaled down. So when I actually remove my the stuff inside of the scene component, they are going to retain their size. So you can see that if I delete this here, my box and my cube are now scaled at 0.75, which is not what I wanted. So we put this at 1, and we put this at 1, and then the default scene root I'm going to put to 0.75, and this is what's gonna kind of accomplish what we were trying to do. So another thing, let's add the color back to it, and figure out, I can't remember what I called the color, so it's just called enemy. Very descriptive and clever. So what I did now, and this is something that students always think is pretty cool. So I just have the material here selected in the content browser, and while I'm doing that, I know that it is. I know. Oh, so Hendrik's in the chat. Hello from Scotland. From Stockholm. Hey, nice to see you, man. I hope Stockholm is treating you well. So yeah, it's always fun getting a comment. I always get a little bit flustered, but incredibly fun getting a comment. So yeah, basically what I was talking about was that now Hendrik probably feels like he was kind of threw me off, but I'm extremely happy to get a comment, and glad to hear that you're in Stockholm. But what I wanted to do here is I put it into red. Yeah, and I was talking about, I really like a lot of the times when I have something selected, if I go into the blueprints here, I usually just use this button here, and I say, just press this button, use selected asset from the content browser, and that means you just kind of have to have the oh, nice, Valencia as well. That's awesome. Yeah, so that makes me really happy to get these hellos. So now we have to I have to stop being weirded out and happy that I'm getting a comment. But yeah, hello. I'm gonna say then hello from Iceland. It's pretty fun. So yeah, this is actually something that I'm also trying to work on. Like I really like it when you guys, people have send me a comment or try to go back and forth, and I really want to get to a point where I can actually just kind of code develop something like this, where people in the chat throwing ideas out, and like we try to build that. But I'm still getting the hang of it. So just definitely throw stuff at me, and don't feel weirded out if I get flustered. So so yeah, basically giving this a color. So let's see what we're gonna do next. We already take a look at our design document here. We've already done a little bit of, so we have our obstacles layer here, and we've decided where we want to keep our enemies layer, and we wanted 4 enemies, and we say that we want to give each enemy 100 by 100 units. And instead of calculating some padding into the into this calculation here, we're just going to make it so that the actor itself, the root scene component, is actually scaled down a little bit, which means that we can always place our things in an organized kind of nice numbers, like whole numbers multiplied by 10. But visually, this is cooler. So yeah, let's see what happens now. So now we have our game. One thing that you can probably see here, which is something that I wanted to fix at some point, is that there's a pretty strong perspective in the scene, because it's a 3D scene, which means that we're not getting an equal amount of space in between these our boxes. So how about we just jump into that before we do anything else and see if we can fix it. And the way to do that is that we go into our player pawn, because last time I added a camera to the player pawn. And basically what I wanted to try is I have the camera selected here. First thing that I wanted to try is just to turn it into an orthographic view. Okay, so now that I turn on the orthographic view, it becomes very difficult to kind of see, because the orthographic view kind of works differently. So let's see if there's any good way of tweaking this. So I can pick, let's see, if I put the, let's see here, I'm putting my pawn in here. I don't know why this is black and white, but my idea here is to actually be able to touch the camera. So I place this into the world, and I'm just going to mess with some of the numbers here until I see something that I like. Okay, cool. So it's the ortho width value that I want to play around with, and I'm going to put my pawn here in the correct location. So I don't know if the scale actually matters. Unlock this here. Let's put the player here. So you can see that the player view, even though it's in wireframe, you can kind of see how it looks. So I'm just trying to find a number that looks right, and I think if we do something like this, we can just do 235 to start with. So now I go into the actual actor, the actual blueprint here, and I put the camera ortho width value here in 235. I'm gonna delete this from the world, and here we go. See, so all of a sudden we now have a much kind of simpler looking game, and I guess this is I should probably have started this way earlier, because this is much closer to the kind of the arcade style that we had before, and it actually gives us a lot more space. This is way cooler, man. Okay, so I'm definitely, when I'm teaching this tomorrow, I'm definitely going to be showing this off in the orthographic view to begin with. So so now we can shoot here. Okay, cool. Let's see if I can I change my view here into a front view, detailed lighting view. Yep. So this is definitely why I'm trying to do why is this? So it's probably the back view, I guess, that I'm going to be, that has the lighting. Yep, here we go. Okay, so I go into just lit and the back view. So now I also have a picture of how my game is going to look like, and do I see? Yeah, here's the light. Yeah, but I kind of like working in perspective mode anyway. So next thing to do is so question was where am I teaching Unreal Engine and game dev? So I'm actually helping out with an Icelandic school that's called I don't remember what it's called. Reykjavik Multimedia School. Reykjavik Multimedia School, I think. They have an Unreal Engine Unreal course, and I get to go and help out when some of the kind of students are doing the more challenging projects, like doing a full game and things like that. I am actually a full-time game developer. I've been doing Unreal Engine for probably 10 years. Started in Unreal Engine 3. So I'm super excited about it, and one of the things that I wanted to do was they had the students, and this is a little kind of, I guess, thanks. So maybe this is a little bit eco-centric, but the students, I think, have a couple of weeks to pull this off. I wanted to do it in an hour, just to show them how, like, once you've kind of gotten the basics of Unreal Engine down, like what you can accomplish in a short amount of time, and like once the tool is not in front, like it's not getting in your way. Then you can just do games really, really quickly. So, but then I figured out, okay, I actually have to be able to pull this off. So I've been doing these training sessions. But I'm definitely going to tell the students that this isn't my first time. Yep, Reykjavik Academy of Digital Entertainment. That is a mouthful. But yeah, let's see if we can do something more. So I'm just going to go back to my design document here to decide what I want to do, and I am here. So we have our we have our obstacles. Do we? Yeah, we have the obstacles. So let's just duplicate our obstacles a little bit. I'm just going to place them kind of randomly. I'm not going to go into too much game design with where I place them. So they are just kind of here. And now when we play, this kind of works. So I guess starting to add a little bit more gameplay into this. What I want to do is I'm going to make the So I'm also going to use this opportunity to practice my my streams. So I'm going to do something really cool. You can see I'm typing furiously. So let's see, streaming. Another thing that I really like to do is when I'm working is to have like a pretty defined list of things that I'm doing. So add logic to the obstacles. I'm gonna do add health to the obstacles. So now this kind of showed up on my on the HUD here. So this is what I'm going to be doing now. I'm gonna Google obstacle just to make sure that just to confirm that I'm not doing it correctly, because I am terrible at spelling. So now this should have get fixed. So now we're focusing on obstacles. And what do we want the obstacles to do? Let's go back over to our design document. And because this is an artboard, I should be able to make a new one on the side here. So this is what I'm kind of liking to work like this, where I just have an artboard here, and then the more that I design, I just make these kind of focused kind of screens. So let's add a layer to it. So this is going to be our design document for obstacles, and the way that you design for I can do this. Obstacles. Awesome. So what do we want them to do? We want them to take up space in the world. So an obstacle is gonna look like this in the world, and we want them to stop a projectile. So we shoot a projectile up here, and once it hits, we want it to stop the projectile. Okay, so, but we have that functionality right now. So what we want to do as well is in the game itself, we kind of break off pieces and things like that. But because we're doing a minimum viable product, I'm going to make a space here on the side that's called for later. And that's going to be break off pieces. But we still want to do something that's a little bit closer. We'll do something similar to it. So I'm going to give it health. I'm going to give the obstacle health. I'm going to say just do 5 hits, and I'm going to say we need visual change. So that and the visual change is needed because we want to know how far along, how many things are left to how much health the thing actually has. So remembering to go back to my my original thing here, let's go in here. So right now the way that this works, if we take a look at our projectile here, the projectile is actually pretty dramatic. Once it overlaps anything, it's going to destroy. The its target, and then it's going to destroy itself. So what we want to do is that if it overlaps an obstacle, it's going to do some other logic, and this is another thing that I want to focus on a little bit now because I'm working with students who are making their kind of first games and things like that. I'm not going to do best practices. I'm going to do the absolutely most simple thing, and then maybe we can evolve later into doing the best practices. So instead of this, instead of actually destroying the actor, we're going to go into our projectile here, and instead of destroying the actor, we're going to take the other actor, and we are going to cast it to obstacle. And this means that if whatever we're hitting is an obstacle, we can do something to it. So right now the easiest thing would be just to say we want to destroy it, and then I'm going to make a sequence here, because first we do our primary logic, and then once we finish that logic, here we go. Let's see. Once we finish that logic, we're going to destroy ourselves. Destroy actor. Here we go. Okay, so the logic that we've set up right now is pretty much the same as we had before, which means that first check if what we overlapped is an obstacle, and if so, destroy, we do call the function destroy actor. So this is what we start out with. So basically what's going to happen now is if I fire a projectile, it is going to destroy my obstacle because that's what we did. But now it doesn't know what to do with the enemies because we don't have the case for it. And this is one of the things that it's always a little bit hard to teach it like this, because this is definitely not best practices on how to do it, but this is probably the most understandable one. So the next thing that we do is, instead of destroying the actor, we want to add the case for our enemy as well. So we take the other actor here again. So when our projectile here, the ball, overlaps other actor, we do cast to enemy and do it like this. If whatever we're casting to is an enemy, we call the function destroy actor. So And again, I'm pressing C to add a comment box. Let's move this out a little bit here and here and here. Feel like code runs faster if the lines are straight. We do like so. Okay, so this cleaned up a little bit. So basically what's happening now is first we check are we overlapping an obstacle, and if we are, we destroy the actor. Then we check, then secondly check if we overlapping an enemy, and if we do so, we destroy the enemy. And then thirdly, we destroy ourselves. We are the projectile, and we want to close the brackets or parentheses. I don't know. Anyway, so so now we have a pretty have a pretty simple logic. So basically, we've made the projectile itself be responsible for a bunch of. It can basically now deal with a couple of other cases than just whatever I hit, I destroy. So let's just put this here. Before, our logic was if the projectile hits something, that gets destroyed. And if the projectile, but now we've set it up so that if we collide with or overlap another actor, we ask, are you the obstacle? If so, we destroy it, and then we ask, are you the enemy? Then we destroy it. So if you're making a big game, you don't do it like this, but it's something that is a good starting point. So let's just make sure that everything works now. Obstacle is destroyed and enemy is destroyed. But this cast node that we were using is something that people, a lot of kind of new people sometimes, and experienced people actually as well, gonna get confused with. So basically what this means is that casting to a particular object type or an object class, the obstacle is a special object itself. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, so the obstacle itself has all of the methods and all of the functionality of an actor, because when we created the actor or the blueprint to begin with, we basically are what's called inherited from the actor. So we're making an actor and then we're adding logic to it. And if we take a look at the obstacle, for example, here, the only thing that we really did with the obstacle is we we gave it a size here, and we messed around with it a little bit. So what we can do now is inside of the blueprint of the actual obstacle, we can call this function destroy actor if we want to, because this is an actor. But the cool thing about the cast that we did, we can actually send a message from our projectile here, and this can be anything that the obstacle knows how to do, and we can actually build new functionality. So because these here are grayed out, I'm just gonna delete them because they're not used. So I'm gonna start by doing a new custom event. So I'm just gonna right click anywhere here in the viewport, and I'm gonna do custom event, and I'm gonna say this custom event is supposed to be subtract, or let's just call it hit by projectile. So another disclaimer is that there is a damage system inside of Unreal. Personally, I haven't used it, but the goal of this is just for people to understand how to make blueprints kind of communicate with each other. And now that I'm saying this, there's an opportunity to put an X in one of our to-do lists, because we have added logic to the obstacles. So now we have added a new function or a new event here inside of our obstacle. And let's add some logic to it. And the logic that I always add in the beginning is print string. And what I'm gonna say here is once I get hit by a projectile, I'm gonna say, ouch, I got hit by a projectile. And now if we move back to our projectile blueprint here, earlier, the obstacle, we were just saying destroy actor here. What we can do now is we can get rid of this. And now, because we've cast our overlap to the obstacle itself, we now have access to this event here. So we can basically send a message and say, like, I want you to do whatever we want. So let's go here, and I'm gonna say hit by projectile. And you can see that hit by projectile is now available. And you can see that the target is BP obstacle. So the obstacle now has some custom logic that we created. And all that this custom logic is going to do is, ouch, I got hit by a projectile. But if we take a look, for example, at the enemy does not have this logic, hit by projectile. So we're not getting anything. So let's see what happens now. Doink. So I move around and I shoot my projectile and I miss. So now once the projectile hits, the projectile itself is destroyed. But you can see that I'm getting a message on the screen saying, ouch, I got hit by a projectile. So to go ahead and add health to these, that was our next step. And I think after we add the health, I'm going to say add a visual indicator to the health of the thing. Okay. So inside of our obstacle here, so now we have, we basically just have a blueprint. And let's take a look again at our design here. So we decided earlier that we wanted each obstacle to have 5 hits. And we can say that 5 hit means that we have 5 health points. And we want to say, and we can just write, I think this would be called pseudocode. We can write on hit by projectile, lose 1 point. Oh, thanks a lot. I'm really glad that that you enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you for showing up. Awesome. So we're doing the logic that we're going to do on hit by projectile, lose 1 point. And we want to say on health depleted. So if it goes under 0, lower than 0, then we do destroy. So I don't know why I'm writing this on the side, but that's just how it went. So let's go back to Unreal and add some of our logic. So the new concept that we need to add is health. So let's just add a new variable. The variable, once I press the plus button here, and I can do this in all of the tabs here, I get a new variable. The default data type that this variable contains is a Boolean, which is a true and false value. For our health, we're going to use an integer. Integer is just a number, a whole number. And I'm going to say I'm going to call it health. And I'm going to say that now that I pick my health variable here on the side, I'm going to say that the default value for health is 5. So let's just go through this a little bit. Let's just do this a little bit faster. Let's just keep going. And we say that anytime that you get hit by a projectile, we say what is the health of the object itself, and we just subtract it by 1, and then we do set. So basically, this is another kind of pattern that new people who are learning Unreal sometimes have a little bit of a hard time grasping. So basically what we're doing is I drag in my variable here to begin with, and I say get, which means that I want to fetch the value that's inside of this variable right now. And the default value when we start up is going to be 5. So when we get hit by a projectile, we take the current value of our projectile, and we do subtract, which takes the number, and we subtract that number by 1. and then we do a set. And set means overwrite the value inside of this here with the newly calculated value. So we're basically just saying 5, because that's the initial value, and we subtract 1, and then we set, and then we save our health value again, and then it's going to be 4. And then the next time that we shoot, we hit the projectile, it's going to subtract it again. So let's just, my favorite command, let's just plug this in here. This is what's called a cast node, because it takes the integer, the number itself, and subtracts by 1. It takes the integer number and converts it into a string so that we can print it out. All right, so let's go here. So now you can see that I shoot this one and this one and this one. So up in the corner there, you can see that now my obstacle has 0 health. And if I keep shooting it, it goes into negative numbers. And this one here has 4 now. This one's gonna get 4, 3. So we can see now that we have health added to the obstacles. So now we just have to write a little bit more logic where we say if we take the current health and we subtract it by 1, and we want to say if we want to add a branch. So I press B and add it here. You can also right click into branch, like so. So the branch is going to take a condition. So that's either going to be a true or false. And we have to ask a question here. We want to say if the outcome of this number here, the health minus 1, if this is less than 0, we want to do something. But if it's not less than 0, we want to do something else. So I'm just going to unplug this here to make it clearer. Oh, here we go, and here we go. So now what's going to happen is that we subtract the number 1, and then we ask, is the outcome of this number, is this less than 0? And if it is, we want to do something like print string, and we're going to say less than 0. But if it's not less than 0, then we want to use the outcome of the subtraction here. Yeah, this is a way to do it. You could do it like this. So yeah, again, this is there's another. Yeah, let's just yeah, I'm practicing, so I can just backtrack anyway. So this is not actually the clearest way to do this. So let's just get rid of this and rid of this, and we just stay where we were before. So whenever we hit the projectile hits, we want to update our health, and that's pretty simple. We just say the health is now this number here. So this is the code that we had before. So I go in here and I shoot, and you can see that the number is going down. But once the health itself is lower than 0, then we can take the output of the health and we can ask, is this number now less than 0? And then we can say, okay, so if it is less than 0, we do nothing. We do print string, and we say still. So if it's less than 0, yeah, okay. So if it's less than 0, we say you should be dead. But if it's not, then we can say you still have some health left. And let's see what happens now. I shoot. And the message is now you still have some health left, you still have some health left, and we keep shooting, and then all of a sudden you should be dead. So now we're not printing out the actual number itself, but we're just doing messages. So now I think the clearest thing to do is if you should be dead, we just call destroy actor. And what happens then is that now once we shoot, nothing happens. You have some health left, so you can be shooting these, but then once you go below 0, now it's destroyed. So now we've actually, that was interesting. Yeah, so now we have a little bit of health on each one of them. Yeah, so we've added health to the obstacles. And we get a check mark. So I think the last thing with the obstacles that I want to do is I want to give them a color. So this is going to show us what I want to do is I want the color to kind of gradually get darker every time that I hit the object. So I'm going to make a new blueprint, a new material. I'm going to call it M obstacle. So that's going to be the material. I'm going to make my material unlit, and that's going to be here. So I only have the emissive color, and then I'm going to make a color, a constant 3, which is going to be RBNG, and then I'm going to set that to start with to something cute like blue. Here we go, and let's apply the obstacle color to our blueprint, the obstacle blueprint, and that's going to go on the cube here, and I pick my obstacle color, I go into the obstacle blueprint and apply it. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to set our color. We want to modify the color so every time that we hit something, it changes a little bit. And the way that we do that is we go in here into the material itself. We convert it to a parameter. So the parameter is going to be called color. So I really don't like using the word color because it feels like such an kind of built-in name. So I'm going to call it health color. Okay. So now what we can do is, if everything goes correctly, and this is something that I mess up quite a bit, I'm going to go and I'm going to take the cube here, and our cube here has the material. I'm going to do get material, and this is going to give me the material at index 0. So our cube only has one material, so this is going to be fine. And first thing that I'm going to try, and this may not work, is I'm going to do set parameter. So that's not going to work. So I probably need to create a dynamic material instance out of it. First do that. And then I'm going to do set parameter, vector parameter value, and that's going to be a color. And the color, this is going to be my, what do we call it? We called it health color. Here we go. Like so. And let's just start by putting it into purple, and let's see if this works. And I'm not sure this is going to work. Okay, so it's complaining about, it needs the primitive here. Yeah, this may not be the best way to do it. Let's see. So now we have all of them blue, and we were going to make them some other color. Let's see what happens. So I shoot. Okay, cool. So this works. So now you can see that anytime that I hit it, we're actually changing color. So now this is pretty easy to do. We can do this in many ways. So we can do things like how do we make, so I'm gonna do a lerp. Yeah, okay, cool. So so this is one way of doing it. We're gonna take the original color, and I wonder if I can do that. Get vector parameter value. Okay, so that's cool. Okay, too complicated. So I'm trying to balance this so that this is as straightforward as possible, but yeah, and not worrying about like best practice, because I would probably normally save the original color that's sat in the material and then lerp between that original color and then some target color. Yeah, and I could also do it. I can have both colors defined in the material and then just feed in the value. But I want to highlight how you can actually feed information like color into the material. So the material is going to be as simple as possible. But I'm gonna see if I can just take the original color value here, and we go into our obstacle blueprint, and our original color is this one, and we lerp it so that it becomes red. And then we just need the alpha. So here we can do lerp between our so we go between our let's see, so okay, so the alpha is going to be, I'm actually kind of wondering if I should go into this for it. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm going to make we know that we start off with 5 and we kind of just go down from there into 0. So I'm going to do map to range, float to range, normalized to range. So this is going to give me 2 numbers. So it's going to give me the current number, which is going to be health, because health is going to be the kind of the max value that we start with. And I'm going to say minimum is going to be 0 and maximum is going to be 5, because our health is going to be dropped down every time. So every time that we hit it, health is going to drop, and we're going to say the minimum is going to be 0 and 5. Basically, this is going to give us some sort of, I just have to test this before I can talk about it. Okay, so that's interesting. So the colors are actually changing, but not in the way that I expected. Which is kind of fun. So let's print out some of these numbers here. So we start off by doing the health. So the health is going to be 5. Okay, let's just add a breakpoint here, and we can see what's going on. So okay, so the breakpoint is not hitting because of what? Okay, so we press play, we go into our blueprint, and we don't have any debug object selected, and we make sure that there is there's a breakpoint here. So now when we shoot, yep, we hit the breakpoint. Oh, awesome, Micro David. Hi. Oh yeah, I'm really glad. This is one of the first kind of streams that I'm doing. Basically, I'm preparing for. I'm doing a presentation for a couple of students tomorrow, showing them how to build Space Invaders. So I decided to come in here and practice. So I'm really happy that you subbed and you're enjoying it. So what I'm taking a look at here is that I have a bug in my code, which is my intended behavior was to go from blue over to red, and I think I'm seeing it. So the goal was actually going from blue to red. So maybe if I flip this, so for this stream, I'm actually not worrying too much about being coherent because I'm just trying this out. So definitely trying to keep this casual. Yeah, so here we go. But still, this doesn't look like the way that I wanted it. So basically, let's take a look at what's happening. So first time that I shoot something, we just take a look at the number. So my health is 4. Gets converted to the float number 4. Then this is going to be 0.8. So lerping between the blue and the red is going to give me some color. So maybe to begin with, this looked correct. So if I go from 0 to 5, which is the maximum number, I'm going to start by just doing white, because it's easier to understand. So I'm going to start going from white, and I'm going to go to black. So the intention here is the first time that I hit this, I'm just going to turn, so even though we have a default color here, so the first time that I hit this, my theory is that this is going to become, I am not sure. So let's see. Okay, so it becomes dark, and then it gets lighter and lighter and lighter until it disappears. So this means that because the value in the beginning is is going to be 0.8, because we get 4 and we normalize 4 to range. That means that and then here, if we're at 1, that's going to be black. So the first time that we shoot it, we should be getting gray. So gray, and then it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So that makes sense. So how about we flip this and we make it so that we start with, let's just keep the color here. Let's keep it white. I think it's kind of cooler to do it. And then we start off as white and go in here. So this is going to be white. The first is going to be white, and then we go and we gradually become more and more red. And now that we shoot, yeah, we gradually become more and more red, and probably not a good idea to keep the enemies red, but that should be fine. Okay, cool. So now we basically now have the logic down. So I mean, if I start shooting these, they are tracking their health, and you can see that that once they turn completely red, they get removed from the actual world. Yeah, so I would actually say that we have added the visual indicator right now, which means that basically we have this this proof of concept, or this kind of start up and running, where if we take a look at our design again that we started out with. we started with a game where we didn't have anything. We had a couple of these classes defined. We had an enemy, we had a projectile working, and then we had an obstacle and a player. And we decided that we were going to structure our level a little bit, and then we actually figured out a cool way to turn the game into an orthographic view, which makes it look more like a game. And we decided these kind of sizes of the world, and then we started doing the design for the obstacles. It had 5 hits here, gave them hit points, and then we added the logic that actually made them go into could drop and then disappear. So we've actually done quite a lot tonight. I'm gonna break for dinner. I'm not sure if I'm gonna come back online, but maybe. But this was actually super fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I like the statistics here are actually showing me that there were a bunch of people who were watching. So I'm super grateful for that. So if you like watching streams like these that are a little bit less structured, and I'm just trying out things and building games, then just definitely subscribe and send me a message. And if you wanna, I love doing game dev on with an audience and with people. So yeah, then I think I'm just logging off. This was great. Thanks a lot, guys.